To have you here. So here we are for the player 2. I hope you have a good sound, also good image. If don't, just let me know in the comments, okay? I know it's tough. It's gonna be tough. But here we go. Here we go for another player 2. Like there's a long time ago I did a player 2, so now we are doing again. You can interact. If I see some questions here, some comments, you can interact anytime. And we have someone very special here. CATHERIN NEWMANN from Blizzard. CATHERIN, are you here?
Hey, Marcel. Yes,
Hey, good to see you. Thank you for coming here. So, CATHERIN,
thank you for having me.
yeah, it's my pleasure. Can you please tell my audience who you are and what do you do in Blizzard?
I am Catherine Newman, and you can call me the languages geek at Blizzard, which is just a fun way of saying I am a localization manager. I am the localization manager for the Latin American region. So I lead the team that is in charge of bringing all of the Blizzard content into Portuguese, Brazil, and into Latin American Spanish. And very excited to be here, Marcel.
How many languages? You do Spanish as for all or just like Latin America?
Just Latin America. And that's the team that I lead. But at Blizzard, we have 12 main languages that we support for our main games and our IPs. So I'm part of that global team that brings those languages and all the games into those languages.
This is amazing because like I was coming to you before we start. Blizzard have a very dense amount of history on their characters. And every time they release a new game or a new edition of a game, there is also a massive amount of story behind. And the characters, they have a lot of expressions and a lot of story, and there is a lot of storytelling in the game. So how is that like dealing with that with Blizzard? Because I believe it's a massive amount of work to be done, especially when it comes to localization. It comes first as in English for you, or you guys engage right after they decide how it's gonna be and start working even before have the English version. How it works?
Well, as you said, Marcel, Blizzard is a company where the lore, the history, and all of this background of each of the characters is fundamental. What would be a WoW without Sylvanas, or what would be without our King Arthas, right? And these are not characters that are static. They develop. You can see the character change. And I mean, if we go into the history of Arthas, we will be here for a long time. We would be here for 15 years because that's precisely one of the
Oh,
reasons why this is such a deep and dense lore. I would say that, and I'm a linguist by profession, I would compare this to the translation of one of those great novels, like A Hundred Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. It's at that level of depth that we have characters developing and building their history. And because of that, you also said that we have a very large team dedicated internally to the localization, and is one of the promises that Blizzard has always made to the players. We will always bring to you content that has been not just simply translated, but fully adapted to our culture, fully adjusted to what our players in our region are relating to. Because we also know that the internet and the world is not the same as what it was 15 years ago. So we always want to stay up on top of the game, and we even reference the meme culture, the pop culture, what are the current singers and sounds that are popular in each of our countries. So it's all a very interesting effort that we do with a lot of love and passion.
that's amazing because like there are other games on Blizzard like Diablo, very dense story, and the StarCraft for sure, Warcraft. There are so many, so many. But let's go to the game so then you can give some examples of your actual work. And this game is Overwatch.
I cannot tell you how much I love Overwatch, not just because I work at Blizzard, but really as a player, someone who has enjoyed games since a very young age. Overwatch just brings together so many cool elements, and I want to share with you specifically on the localization what are some of these interesting things that we do. So we can go into the play round and see into a quick game. We can
So
start
the
talking about
quick
it.
quick play, right?
Hmm.
Earn loot box. Yeah, ready.
Yep.
And deathmatch.
Let's do a quick play. Yep.
Quick play, and there is deathmatch option, right?
Yep. Let's go with those options you have here.
Yes. So now we are getting
So
inside the game.
one of the first things that we have to take into account of Overwatch is a shared world. And because of that, you could be playing the Portuguese Brazilian version of the game, but you're going to be interacting with people who could be playing the game in any of the other languages, right? So I, for example, played in Spanish. I'm Colombian and my first language is Spanish. And I could be playing with people who are playing the game in any other language. So an important aspect of the game is that because it's a sound cue game, meaning that all of your actions and triggers for any activity will come from a sound source instead of a text source. All of those elements need to be localized in a way that really connects to the audience, to the players. So, for example, as a player who plays the game in Spanish, if I hear a word in Spanish that is very like triggering in the sense of really telling me something is going to happen, then I can act on it. And same for Portuguese and all the other languages. So the ultimate lines, which are, you will be playing, you'll be hearing them, are key to how you enjoy the game and how you connect with the other players.
Yeah, that's cool because like this kind of expressions during the game, like you mentioned, like even if you are playing with different players from different nationalities, with different languages and different culture, I need to understand what they want to express, right? No matter what is happening, it should be exactly precise way of expression. So now I'm
Exactly.
playing here. Um, and guys, forgive me. There's a long time I don't play Overwatch. Okay,
Well, you're
so
in Joker Town, so being a Reinhardt is a good move on this one. Just keep your shield up and give some good cover to your friends there.
oh my god, it's getting crazy. I love the way the game is on Blizzard I made. I'm totally mess here. You guys have to forgive me totally. But I'm looking like to the like you can hear right all the expressions happening and people talking and how you guys work on the storytelling in terms of localize when the storytelling sometimes have so many local like for instance English has a lot of slangs, right? How do you localize slangs because the slangs are something really really like local, right? Sometimes you want to express
Hmm.
something cannot be too much over, sometimes you want to be over. So how you decide that?
So I'm gonna give you a good example with the character that you're playing, Reinhardt. Reinhardt is a character that has been part of the Blizzard universe, and it carries this very honor-filled history. He's a very uh, well respected person in the Blizzard universe. And because of that, he has more of an authoritative voice. And that's something we also bring into the localized versions. So, yes, we do have the English as a source, but we know what the character's background is. And we will take that. And in Spanish, for example, what you have, and in Portuguese as well, is a very deep voice that really connects to someone who has a bit of an old soul. And that's something we do with the localized versions. We make sure to always carry who that character is with the voice. We also have a play on accents, and this is more particular in the case of Spanish Latin America. Reinhardt is a character that grows up in Germany, has that German background, and because of that, in the Spanish version, we have a bit of that German accent, and it's a very interesting way of honoring that background and at the same time allowing the player to have a unique experience because they can play with Reinhardt and have that German feel into the game, but then they can play with Sombra and have the Mexican tone of her voice and her accent and get an even different layer of interaction with the game through the accents alone.
It's cool because I never imagined that maybe German in English sounds completely different than German in another language, you know. And this is something that, no, my God, this is a lot of dedication in terms of listening and putting together how a language sounds to another language.
Yes, and but that's what the localization and languages geeks are here for. So my team, for example, will conduct research on Overwatch. We have Baptiste, who is a character that has this Caribbean accent to his language. And we did research on the phonological aspect of Caribbean Spanish. So, for example, how do you pronounce the letter R? The letter P in Caribbean Spanish is very different to, I don't know, maybe how it sounds in Brazil or how it sounds in Argentina. So we do this type of research to identify really how to incorporate the accent without making it in a cartoonish way or in a disrespectful way. We really stick to an in depth research and analysis of these linguistic and phonological aspects of the accents.
It's amazing, like, because again, like, I can imagine sometimes how hard it is to select also the right voices, right? Because especially the Blizzard games, there are so many talking on the games, and so
Mm-hmm.
many characters with different voices, and the voices are the soul of those characters somehow. And then you have to somehow replicate it. I remember, actually, Blizzard is a good example. Don't take me wrong with what I'm gonna say now. In Brazil, there's an old joke about one of the first games to be localized. I think it's one of the first games from PC I remember to be fully localized. That was the StarCraft, the first StarCraft, and the localization was done for a particular area of Brazil, Rio de Janeiro. And then the accent was so heavy on the game, so heavy that a lot of people do jokes about. But in the other hand, it was funny because somehow that put a lot of people like good memories because the way they
Mm-hmm.
talk. And then later, you guys changed that for the localization, and the localization become more general for Portuguese speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think you're touching on something that is very special, which is localization becomes part of the identity of the game. What you're saying, people have these build these memories around those voices, and then when something changes or when it's something very specific, that's what they remember of the game. Not only the graphic aspect, not only, the great world and map, but also the sounds, and localization offers that. It's another way of connecting to the game, connecting to what part of the game or at what time in the game's history did you play it, because that also kind of happens when you remaster a game or when you have a new expansion and for some reason there's a new voice. What localization at Blizzard has always strived to do is consistency and always maintaining those legendary voices. So we have actors and actresses who've been working with us for the last 10 years and they continue to come. We know that they are the legendary voices and we love them. So we will always want to work with them.
so when you select a voice in a different, so that should be a huge list. I can imagine how many languages right now you guys translated Overwatch.
Overwatch is translated into 13 languages and
How many?
it's 13.
13. So that means for each character you have 13 different versions of a actor.
Yes.
13 actors
And
for that voice only.
and I would say that one of my favorite things to do is go on YouTube and watch the compilations. So there are a couple of very good and cool YouTubers who just do a mashup of all the different localization versions of what same character, and they play the ultimates. And I think it's always fun because the reality is that you cannot compare. It's not about who's best or who's worst. It's about the beauty of the diversity. And it's another one of the things that Blizzard has always been such a big supporter of diversity and inclusion. hearing different accents, hearing different nationalities and ethnic backgrounds in our games is a way of bringing representation, and that's something that I'm very passionate about.
It's amazing. Like I didn't imagine there are some people on YouTube doing this kind of compilations of different voices of different languages of the same character. That should be really funny to watch. I mean,
Oh, it's so much fun, Marcel.
yeah,
I highly recommend that if you have some time.
I have to watch that. Now I'm very curious about it, you know. Well, I'm terrible playing right now. You guys should be laughing a lot because I'm trying to concentrate here, but the guys are doing so well and I'm doing so bad. But
It's a fast game.
yeah, it's a fast game, and I love Overwatch, and I think like the graphics and everything is amazing. So we talk a lot about talking on the games, right? Voices and how to translate for voicings. Um, what about the things that are written? Because this is different, right? We have the menus, sub menus. We have a lot of things that are like closed caption sometimes for impaired people, impaired hearing people. So
Hmm.
how that works? How's that? How's the work behind that?
Of course, so localization can branch out in two main components, which is the multimedia aspect. So, as you were saying, the audio, other graphic elements, and then we also have the text side of things. And text has a lot of challenges as well because in a game like Overwatch and World of Warcraft, we have a lot of development elements baked into the localization string. So, for example, the tokens, the variants. So, depending on gender for the nouns or the verbs to change. And we need powerful tools to power that localization, especially when we're talking about hundreds of thousands of words. So, on one side, you, as a localization team, what you have to have in place are tools, technology tools that allow you to support that operation. And then you have to have well educated and professional team members who understand those challenges and find the best way to sometimes even be aware of the text display on the screen because you don't want something to be too large to cover part of the screen. And that also combines with the effort that we have of dedicated localization quality assurance, which is even another layer after functional QA. So it's a big effort. We are a strong and big team that takes care of this, and it's all made with the effort of really bringing the best experience to the player.
So that's something I never thought about it. Yes, for sure. When you do some translations, talking about text only, um, I can imagine that some words, especially I believe in Russian and German, should be really, really complicated because they have some words that are super long, and that would be a problem to fit
Spanish
on the
too.
screen, right?
Yeah, like the percentage, there's actually a percentage to that. The expansion is 30% more for Spanish compared to English. And that is something that development teams are very aware of, and we are very integrated to them. So they understand that, okay, let's be mindful of how this could look for German, Russian, Spanish, that do tend to be very long languages, to put it one way.
I'm very curious about one thing. I don't know if you can answer, if you have some example, uh, but sometimes names need to be translated because
That is a
some names they doesn't fit well or they don't sound good in other languages. How is the process to define that?
Well, all of those are creative decisions, and I'm very proud that at a company like Blizzard, localization teams have that autonomy. But we do that in along with the development team. So in the case of Overwatch that you're playing, we choose not to localize the names for Portuguese and for Spanish, just because they carry some of the meaning and some of the background of each of the characters. So, for example, when we think of Farah or when we think of other of these very diverse characters, their names take us to where they come from. So, you think of her and you can immediately go back into that part of the world where she comes from. Or you can look at, for example, Sombra, and sombra, in Spanish means shade,
Yes, shade.
or yeah, but then that keeping that along the other languages is a way of also inviting the player to learn more about the other languages and learn more about that character's history. So it's these are decisions that come with a lot of thought and a lot of creative and critical thinking. In some other games, we do choose to translate them, so it's also depending on how we see the players enjoying the game more, or how we think that there will be a better reception of the game.
It's amazing, right? Because but sometimes you may face a situation where one particular name, it may sound really bad, or can be a
Yes.
curse word or something like this in another language. In that case, probably you guys have to interfere, right? And
Yeah.
advise the guys from the, I don't know if it's going to be the developer or the creative team, if they can create an alternative name for that or something like this.
Yes, we do. And that's part of the main responsibilities of localization to, as I said, represent and give a voice to what some of the cultural aspects of our region have to do with the game. And we also advise in terms of the skins and the terms of in terms of other things of the game that might not even be as visible. Like for example, we've seen on Overwatch 2 trailers that there will be a real map, and we even advise on those things to make sure that they are a positive representation. And for me, I would say it's one of the most important aspects. If I could throw in a good shout out here to one of the most influential or most interesting uh, talks we could any of us here could find on YouTube. In GDC 2018, there was a very interesting presentation about Muslim representation in video games. And
Whoa,
the
that's
person,
cool. That's different, very
yeah,
different, right?
yeah, and the person who was uh, sharing his experience as a Muslim developer talked about our map Oasis in Overwatch. Maybe you will end up there.
Hmm.
And how he was very moved by the fact that in the map there was a positive representation of Iraq, futuristic instead of being a war
Negative,
zone.
it's like something positive actually. Show the
Hmm.
future of that place. That's amazing. Like that's another way, right? Like to understand how this makes sense. So in terms of touching people in different regions with different cultures, showing them something of their ward, their very closed
Hmm.
ward, and expand that in a game, and they connect with that. That's amazing.
Yes, and it brings hope. It brings ideas to, you have been a player since a young age. I
Too.
have been a player from a young age as well. And when you see your country represented in a positive light, it makes you hopeful. It makes you think that, oh, yeah, Brazil can totally look like this, and we can be a fun place. And for example, for my background, I also see how the Dorado map in Overwatch pays such a positive tribute to the Latin American history. So those are the cool things beyond localization that we can see in a video game like Overwatch.
That's really cool. Hey, we have some questions here. One from Rodrigo Ships. He's a dev from Brazil. And he asked like, does the fact that Blizzard have devs from Germany, Argentina, Brazil, it helps in any way in the translation, localization? I think he's talking more about the devs that are doing the game concept, the creation of the game, and the artworks. There's probably, I know Blizzard is a multinational company. You have guys from everywhere in the world, and I believe this somehow sum up for a better
Hmm.
localization in terms of general game. But can you tell more about it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it connects to my message on diversity. It has to do with multiple cultural backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, gender representation as well, having not only a multitude of gender representation in video game development is important because we want to be a voice for any identity out there and do that in a meaningful and genuine way. So, of course, having multiple people from different backgrounds, it's a way of elevating the game, of really listening to different points of view, really embracing what Blizzard is, which is a video game company that is global and wants to reach out to all the different players, no matter where they are in the world. So I'm very proud of that, and I think it's something that you can see in a game like Overwatch, where you have all these different maps in different parts of the world and different voices.
And so many different characters, right? I think Overwatch is one of those examples, just like you mentioned, because there are so many different characters, and it's expanding all the time. That was really
Hmm.
cool. So,
Yeah.
Catherine, I have other questions for you. I will remove the game right now from the screen. Um, like when we are developing a new game, no matter which game is being developed, um, and I work in marketing, so I know there's like localization is something really, really important when it comes to campaigns. And when we are developing a campaign, we have to think through and all the possibilities, But developing a game is way vast. It's more than a movie, It's way more than a movie. Um, the full process, like when you engage in a new game, that you have to do a localization. How long it takes for localization only in general?
It depends on the size. So uh, we all know World of Warcraft Shadowlands is going to be released later this year, and an expansion for the size of World of Warcraft Shadowlands is something that will take us a good couple of months, because the lore, as you said right at the beginning, whereas in a game like Overwatch, we focus mostly on the one line recordings, and that can go a little faster instead of when you have a lot of dialogue and a lot of cinematics. So it depends on the game. What I think is the key to really understanding the process is the sooner you can get started, the better, because it allows you to make bug changes down the road in case there's something that needs to be fixed. Or you feel that, this voice, we thought that we had made a good choice on the casting, but now that we're playing it in the game, we realize maybe it's lacking some of the punch, or maybe it's lacking some of that flavor we want. Like Lucio in Overwatch. I'm sure you've played
Hmm.
Lucio.
Hmm.
That is such a unique, important voice. And if we want to make it perfect, we want to allow some time for maybe an extra recording at the end. And that's the amount of passion and commitment that Blizzard has always put into the localization. It has to be perfect. It will be at the level of English. And I say that because it's truly how my whole team works.
I believe that right now you may be working in new titles to come that you cannot release any information. I know that, I'm aware, but I'm curious to know how was the change during this pandemic period to work remotely. Because probably you have too many countries, too many people doing translations, and how we put all together. I know somehow this was done remotely already, but I think there is a additional challenge because people like actors that go for the voice recording, for instance, they go for studios, and now they cannot go for studios that easily, and this should be a more complicated factor to be add to the math. So how
Yes.
you guys work with that during this period?
Well, the first thing I would say is these are the advantages of really making a commitment to localization. We have the backup of the company to do anything we need to make this happen, and that comes with providing extra resources and working with the localization teams in adjusting pipelines and making improvements to our process. We did indeed have a lot of remote recordings, but we have specialized audio people in our team who guide each of the actors, and they do tests to make sure that they're soundproof and their echo equipment and everything that they need for doing a home recording is up to the standards of a you know top of the line studio, which is what we're used to. And I have to also recognize the fact that it's we're at a time where many actors and actresses are already aware of the advantages of having a good home setup. And many of them were prepared because the demand has increased to the point where they just rather do it themselves and have become specialized in doing that. So there have been a lot of things we've done to support this process. It has been a tremendous effort, to say the least, but it is because we love our players, and we will never delay it because of the localization. We want also the localization to arrive on the same day that the launch is made. So if that means extra work for us, we will bring it. We will do it. We're happy to do that for all of our players.
Yeah, I can imagine how hard it is, even for me, like working from home. I'm not doing this kind of job, but all the thing and everyone working away, you have to retrain the way of working. In the beginning, we thought, okay, I'm gonna work from home. That's gonna be easy. But then we noticed that we are working way more, but way more than we should. So then we
Yeah.
have to counterbalance that. It's not an easy thing. Catherine, I really enjoyed to talk to you and to know more about all of these on Blizzard and also all of this world of localization. But our time is running up. I'd like you to say your final words and how people can find you on the internet.
Well, Marcel, thank you very much for opening the space to the localization team. I'm here representing a big group of people. And my invitation is to come visit our YouTube channels for the Latin American region. So, Blizzard Latam, Blizzard Brazil, those are our main channels. And then you have Overwatch Brazil, Overwatch Latam, World of Warcraft, etc., etc. Come check out our trailers if you're interested as an actor to develop your career in video game. These are really good resources for you to learn how to become one day a voiceover actor for a video game or a voiceover actress. So that's my main invitation, Catherine Newman. But go check out the Blizzard YouTube channels for the Latin American region. I think you'll really like the Portuguese channel, Marcel. So go
Not
check it
only
out.
me, a lot of people here, I'm very sure they're going to check it out.
Awesome. Yeah, we're very excited to have you all over. Leave messages on our YouTube channels. We read those. So you
Okay.
can always give us a good shout out or a
I,
good
I will
feedback
check it
there. We
out.
appreciate it.
I'll check it out by my own and I will leave some comments over there. You can check later. Thanks a lot, Catherine.
Thank you, Marcel. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye. Okay, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. It was really good to know how Blizzard work with localization teams in different parts of the world and how they work with localization. How many forts they put, right? It's amazing because, come on, their games are super cool and full of details. Okay, so that's it for now. That was player 2 number 5. I hope you enjoy. See you soon, folks.